everybody. I'm excited, y'all. Y'all know I be excited every week, but I am really, 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 really excited, y'all, because my spiritual father is on. Y'all know he ain't been on in a while, but I'm excited. So let me know where you guys are in from. I know we are streaming on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Hi. So let me know where you guys are from. We're going to get started quickly because, again, I don't want to miss this rich conversation that we're going to have with my spiritual father on today. We are going to talk about what is the purpose of a spiritual parent. I've gotten a lot of inboxes. I've gotten a lot of phone calls because, of course, I know you guys see me post about him all the time. And so I said, what better way for me to have the conversation than to actually bring my spiritual parent on so we can have the conversation with you guys. Hi, South Carolina. How are you tonight? So I'm just really excited because I know you guys come on every week. Y'all support. Y'all talk to me, you send me your questions and you tell me your problems and you ask me to pray. And all of that is good. But I wouldn't be able to do none of this if it wasn't for the person I'm bringing up. Because again, he's my spiritual father. He has been my spiritual father for over the last 10 years. And so I'm just really excited that he's going to get to share with you guys on today. Hey, Atlanta. I'm just really excited about that. I get to share him with you guys. Y'all can't have him, but I'm going to share him with you guys on tonight. I'm just letting you know, because, all of a sudden people start claiming your people. We keep him close to the vest. Hey, Delaware. Hi. So listen, guys, it is 7:02 because I'm going to bring him in because he'll tell you, even when we get a chance to talk on the phone, it's like time goes by really fast. And so I don't want to miss that opportunity. Y'all know I'm going to keep talking, but I'm going to have him introduce himself so he could give you guys the formal introduction of who he is and why he is here today. So let me bring him up to the stream. Apostle! I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Bless you, everyone. Blessings, blessings.
Apostle, tell the people who you are. Well, you already know. First of all, I want to tell you before you even start, your lady. That Lady Yolanda Gorrell is in them comments already. I love it.
Already.
So introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Stanley Gorrell, a native of New York City. I am the senior pastor of Community Church and the founder of Next Dimension Tabernacle that was birthed maybe about 20 years ago. I'm also the presiding prelate of Kingdom Impact Movement, and that is a covenant of a group of covenant pastors that have come together, and the Lord is trusting me to cover them and to lead them and to really just impart whatever wisdom it is that God has placed in me to impart. And so, simple kind of guy. I'm a family guy. I love my family, love my church family, love my spiritual children, even those that I mentor. And that's pretty much all about me. I'm also a businessman. And so there's several facets to my life, but just a simple kind of guy. And I'm glad to be on with my spiritual daughter.
Y'all, I'm the favorite spiritual daughter, if y'all ain't know already. I'm the favorite. So we're going to jump right in and get started. I see New Jersey. I see New York. I see Delaware. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I even believe I saw Alabama. So you guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to talk about first, because of course we know we're going to talk about what is the purpose of a spiritual parent. But before we go into that, we want to talk about specifically what is a spiritual parent. And I wanted to talk about this because, one, people know about the natural parents, the ones who birth you, the seed, what you call it. But however, when it comes to this conversation about spiritual parents, a lot of people think they don't exist. Or, they believe that their natural parents have to be their spiritual parents. And there's some natural parents who become offended if their children talk about having spiritual parents. So can you go into what a spiritual parent is?
Well, you hit it on the nose when you started talking about natural parents. I can relate it to the natural. Number one, we know that in order for us to grow, to develop, and to be who we need to be in life, it takes more than just putting a child in a school system. The school is responsible for giving them certain information, educating them in certain ways. However, the real grooming of that child begins before they ever step foot into a classroom. The real grooming of that child begins with who their nurturer is, who their protector is, someone that can see the worth of that child and groom them to become who the Lord wants them to be in life. And so it is the same in the spirit. I don't want to say the same, but it's similar in the spirit, where God, number one, I want to start. Well, no, I don't want to do that because I may be answering another question too early. When God places spiritual parents in your life, the reality is these are the people who God has set in position to groom you to become who it is that God wants you to be. Their job is to raise you up in the things of God, and that kind of probably offends some, because most people's mentality is, I'm grown. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm grown. Nobody can instruct me. However, someone who is grown and mature understands that even after you have reached maturation, you still need somebody, because there's still more that you need to know, need to learn, need to walk through. And that spiritual parent is supposed to be there to guide, to lead, and also to see you through the eyes of God, see you how God sees you. And they rate and they groom you based on what it is the Lord has shown them, what revelation they have gotten about that individual that you're supposed to parent. And also want to say that how you've mentioned that some don't believe in spiritual parents. You're not going to find that name or that title, so to speak, in the Bible. However, you will see examples of spiritual parenting in the Word of God. I think that we're at a point where a lot of people like to nitpick. You don't have a spiritual mother. You don't have a spiritual father. However, when we look at Paul and Timothy, Timothy was considered to be his faithful son. When we read and we study the relationship between Paul and Timothy, he spoke to Timothy as his son. That was not his biological son. That was his spiritual son. And so it was his job to groom him, and to pour into him so that he could become who God wanted him to be. And so although he didn't say Paul, the spiritual parent of Timothy, people are kind of technical, but it does give us examples of those relationships in the text. So a spiritual parent really should be able to see you through the lenses that God has given. They have to be able to see what it is that's in you even before you even see it in yourself. A lot of times a parent, and I know this is the longest answer, but I'm going to cut after this.
Go forth, man of God.
A lot of the parents that you can look in and check out the characteristics. I'm talking in the natural now of that child. And you could say, I know my mother used to look at us, and even though, my family has been spiritual, we've been in church, so people prophesied who we would become. But I remember my mom would look and say, this is going to be the singer right here. This one is she going to be able to sing real good. She going to be able to dance. She looked at our infancy stages and saw what it was that we were interested in doing, what we were maybe not even so good at, but we had a passion for. And so, a child, a lot of times you can't really say, oh, they're going to sing, because they sing all over the place a lot of times when they're children. But there's something about that parent that can look and say, this is going to be my singer, because they identify it by the passion of that child. You have children, daughter C, and you knew that your children were going to be musicians, not because your husband is a musician, but you saw those qualities. You saw the passion that they had for it. You saw the zeal that they had for it. And also you're spiritual. You can see in the spirit as well. This is where this is headed. And we know that they're not just musicians, but I just want to put that out there. However, you can look at that son or that daughter, and you can see in them what God has given them the passion for, a God-given passion, and you pull that out. You groom them. It is a bad parent for you to keep trying to create and make your children who you want them to be instead of what it is God has shown you about them.
I'm glad you talked about that. Someone in the chat asks what happens when the natural parent is offended. And I just want to say, because I've experienced different levels of things when it comes to the spiritual parent versus the natural parent, what I can also add to that is being a spiritual daughter is, although my mother saw things in me from the time of birth, my spiritual father was able to see my future and pull it out of me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the difference, because someone mentioned whether or not we could call it a spiritual guide or something like that. I think the premise is a parent nurtures. A parent chastises, a parent rebukes. And if you know anything, it talks about it in the Bible about, your leaders having, your leaders having the ability to rebuke, to reprove, for correction, for the edifying, to edify ourselves, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And my own experience has been, there are a lot of things that my natural parents knew I was supposed to do. However, my spiritual parent not only saw what I was supposed to do, the ability of what I could do, but saw what God wanted me to do, and then helped pull it out of me. And I'm still being pulled. It's still not comfortable. I'm still growing or whatever. But I think that's the thing, because of course, and I know someone mentioned it on here, whatever. I think if a parent in general, whether it's your natural parent, wants what's best for you in the God sense, then like you mentioned, my sons, I know I'm not their spiritual parent. I'm their natural parent, but God has already told me who he's created them to be. I am not equipped to pull out of them what God has placed in them. However, I want to be able to support my leaders as they groom my children.
Can I just say something to that? We can find, that's why I love the Word of God. We can find examples all throughout the Word of God. Number one, let's look at Samuel. Samuel was given to Hannah, and Hannah knew that the child, the seed that she had, was special. But she promised God that if he would allow her to have this baby, that she would give that baby back to him. She gave Samuel to be raised in the spirit so that he could become even who God probably, has said he would be. You understand what I'm saying? And so a lot of times, even as the parent, we are responsible, of course, for seeing things and nurturing that gift and pushing them forward. But God has an assigned person. Even after you have done all you can do as a natural parent, God now has an assigned person that say, I'm going to take them where they got to go spiritually. It wasn't the voice of Hannah that told Samuel to listen to God. But if I'm gonna make it, a little comical. But it was his pastor. It was the reverend. While he was in the chambers, he kept hearing a voice, and that voice kept calling his name. He kept running back. Did you call me? Did you call me? And it was that leader that groomed Samuel and got him ready, told him to go back and avail himself, because he perceived that it was the voice of the Lord who was calling Samuel. And so it is our job as a parent to nurture what we can nurture. But then then we have to also be good enough parents to know when God says, take your hands off, because I have somebody that I want to groom them in this area. So absolutely.
Awesome. We're going to go right into our next question, because we talked about it a little bit, you guys, before we got like, ask your spiritual father if somebody already ask your spiritual father if he has room for one more, because I like you. We can work on that, but I'm his executive assistant, so you need to make an appointment. But we'll work on that, because I do know he is called to the masses. It's not just the local church. He's an apostle. He equips, he trains, he develops, and he sends us out. So you don't have to be a member of our church. to be spiritually fathered by him. I will tell you that because he has children all over. So so I will say that, but we're going to dive right in. What are the qualifications does a person need in order to be considered a spiritual parent? I say this because I have seen, especially during this pandemic, all over social media. And again, age has nothing to do with it, but it just seems like it's all of these, I'm going to say chilling, running around talking about they got spiritual sons and daughters. And I'm going to be honest, by age, you guys know I'm in my 40s. By maturity or whatever, I believe I'm mature in the things of God. I still have a lot of learning to do, but I don't believe I'm at the place to have any spiritual children and be responsible for people in the spirit like that. So I want you to talk about what are the qualifications a person needs, and actually kind of touch on why these, people run around collecting sons and daughters.
I'm so glad that you asked me this, and I pray that the right people view this. First of all, it takes, of course, we've mentioned maturity, but you cannot parent someone and you are a novice yourself. If you are a novice, it's almost like the teenage pregnancy syndrome, where you have babies having babies, and you need somebody to watch you raise that child because you don't know what to do, because you weren't properly prepared to have a child. You were still supposed to be somewhere doing homework, and now you're out having babies. And so we have to stop the math homework so that we can teach you how to make a bottle. We have to stop the math homework so now we can teach you when the baby has a rash, what you're supposed to do. And so it is in the spirit. There are many people who are not equipped enough to be spiritual parents because they are too immature. Their mental capacity is not there. Their spiritual life is in shambles, and you want to parent someone. One of the reasons why, please don't think that I am attacking anybody, but I think that we have to really look closely at this. When you start saying you're somebody's mother and somebody's father, and these people start trusting you, they look to you. If you don't know how to do what it is that you've been assigned to do, and let me put a footnote there. Many of us, even as parents, are still learning, but we're in a place where we can hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. If you know that you have not been developed enough, because that's the problem. We have underdeveloped people having babies, underdeveloped people with spiritual children, underdeveloped people that are trying to lead a people, and you don't know where you're going yourself. There's no way you can take anybody anywhere. And so I'm by no means am I trying to attack anybody, but I think that a lot of times these people that run out wanting to have children, they need a sense of what can I say? They want validation. And if I have this many children over here, and I got this church, and I got, because that's another thing we're doing. We're becoming bishops and apostles and all of these things, and we are not ready. People are not ready for these things. And so if I have this, and this is people that are seeking acceptance, they're looking to be important. They're looking to have somebody pat them on the back, and they feel like having spiritual children is what's going to validate. When in all actuality, it makes you a more effective parent when you can sit in front of your sons and your daughters, and they actually can see that you have been processed through some things. They can see that you have been developed in certain areas. Because why? We can show them our scars. We've been somewhere. We've done something. Here's the holes in my hand to prove that this is where I've been, that I've suffered to be where I am, that I went through to be where I am. I took the lashing, I took the training, I took the correction. I was rebuked myself. A lot of the people that are claiming to be spiritual parents, you can't be corrected yourself. You don't know how to receive rebuke. You don't, and it can be constructive criticism, but because of your pride, you still got to die a little more to you and before you can bring, because let me tell you something about spiritual parenting. These here, spiritual children, I'm not, singling any out. I'm on with one of my spiritual daughters, but spiritual sons and daughters can take you through some stuff. And if you are underdeveloped, you can't have a temper tantrum the same time they're having one. You can't kick and scream the same time they're kicking and screaming. Somebody's got to be the parent. Somebody's got to maintain a level head and tell them, now, are you done? I still want you to get in the room, get your books, complete that homework like I asked you, and then you can come out and watch television for 1 hour, and then you're going to bed. That's how a parent normally talks to their child. And after all that screaming and kicking and tantrum and throwing and all of that, that child thought they was getting somewhere with that parent, only to find out that that parent is not budging. I'm that kind of spiritual parent as well. You can not show up. I'm not coming. I'm not doing. I'm upset. I'm angry. And I'll still be sitting there in my chair waiting for somebody to call my name for me to preach. And keep right on moving. And at the time that I have to deal with you, I will. But we both can't be underdeveloped. We both can't kick and scream. Somebody's got to be the parent while somebody has to be the son or the daughter. Okay? I mean, there's more to that answer, but I don't want to take over the show.
No, this is your show. I told y'all already, I wouldn't even be up here if it wasn't for him. So this is show. Y'all wouldn't even be talking to me. My speech wouldn't be seasoned. I'd be still telling people off and rolling my eyes. So thank God for the Holy Ghost and the spiritual father who will tell you about yourself while you kicking and screaming and send you to your room. That's me. So I just want to let y'all know. I was one of those. So I wanted to let y'all know that. So I'm glad that you talked about people being underdeveloped, because I just know what my journey has been and the things that I've been through in my spiritual walk and the warfare I've encountered. And you guys, I'm sure I've said it on this platform before, the seasons and the periods of times of extreme warfare and how I was able to call on my spiritual father. And he would guide me. He guided me through seasons of warfare. And it wasn't just that I'm going to pray for you. It was literally, this is what happened to me. And this is how you should move. And this is how you should operate. And this is how you should combat the enemy. And this is how you should pray. It wasn't just I've been through that too, and let's just shout it out. It was literally, he nurtured me and how to deal so that I can mature, that I can learn the lesson, and that I can move forward. And I feel really bad for a lot of people who are seeking acceptance so much that they are attaching themselves to people who they believe, because in their minds, I believe they believe that this person is their spiritual parent. The person gave them a word of wisdom or a word of knowledge, because half of the stuff y'all talking about on Facebook ain't prophecy. That's another story for another day. We'll have the apostle come back and talk about that. However, all of a sudden you're attached to someone. But when you really going through, when the enemy is on your track, when you're self-sabotaging yourself, when it's not even the enemy, it's the enemy was in you. I needed a spiritual parent to not only, because there were times, you guys, and I think I talked to you all about it, that I never opened my mouth. He would pick me up and say, something's not right. What's going on? Or never say nothing and just intercede and pray. And I'm afraid that a lot of people are attaching to people who they believe are their spiritual parents, but there's no lineage there. There's no connection. There's no real connection to the person. And one of the things I wanted to mention, how I knew, because the people be like, well, how did you know Apostle Gorrell was your spiritual parent? Like, because we're going to talk about it. And I told him to make sure he does, because a person is your pastor doesn't mean they're your spiritual parent.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that. So I realized that Apostle Gorrell was my spiritual father based on our relationship. I had time to really truly get to know him. And I noticed there was a lot of common similarities in my attitude and like the way I thought things through. And I realized I was like, wow, I've never met anybody who understood me the way that he does. Also, too, the way he would point me in certain directions. Like we laughed about it before coming on this live. A few years ago, Apostle said to me, hey, I want you to do a business workshop at this conference. And I said to myself, what you want me to do that for? I even said it to him. I was like, I'm not ready to be speaking at no conference. Like I would minister every now and then, but it wasn't a ministering assignment. It was more or less, I want you to do a business workshop at our convocation. So it's multiple churches. And he said, I want you to talk about whatever the Lord gives you concerning business. For me today, to have a doctorate in business, this was before I even went back to school, to have a doctorate in business, to be invited on platforms to talk about business things. This is something he saw in me prior to me even seeing it in myself. And I think that's one of the most important parts of connecting to the right spiritual parent, because they're going to see what God sees in you. Not because honestly, as parents, there are things that I may see in my kids, but I don't necessarily see everything that God has for them. And so I wanted to make sure, because I know someone wrote that in the comments as to that piece. And that's what happened for me. So the next question is, how do I find my spiritual parent? So now we know spiritual parents exist and we know the qualifications, but now if a person is watching this live, they may go to a church, they may not, they may have pastors, they may not, but they're in limbo and they're trying to figure out, well, how do I find my spiritual parent? What would you say to that?
Well, what I would say to that is first, I'm gonna keep that question right here. How do I find the keyword find my spiritual parent? But I want to bring attention to this. We don't pick our spiritual parent, and this goes back to what you said earlier concerning people wanting to be connected to someone. And because they want to be connected, they may connect to the wrong person. If we picked our spiritual parent, we would pick them for all of the wrong reasons. You would pick them because, hey, maybe they got a name and you're looking to have a name. Maybe they, you see their relationship with someone else and you think that that's going to be the same relationship that you're going to have with them. And the reality is that may not be. It is not, just like in the natural, every parent and child does not have the same relationship. And so we will pick our spiritual parents from the soulish realm, from the realm of our emotions. God has to, number one, select our spiritual parent. He has already established who they should be. What we do a lot of times is God will put us in the path of our spiritual parent. And something in your spirit has got to tell you that this is your father and your mother, but also your father and your mother is going to know you. They're going to know you. God will also give them that connection. There's some people I wasn't sure right away, but as time went on, God allowed there to be such a connection and it began to flow in that direction. Some of the people that call me dad and pop and spiritual father and so forth and so on, I did not know that I was that to them in the beginning. One of my sons in ministry, the late Prophet Hickson, he was the one who taught me about spiritual parenting. Yes, my son taught me about spiritual parents. I said that right. I was still trying to be his pastor. I wasn't looking to be anything else. After church, because I'd known him for some time, my family calls me Jermaine. They call me by my middle name. And so after church, I said, you can call me Jermaine now. We're not in service. He said, no, I can't. He said, I have to draw the line somewhere so that I'll never forget that you are my pastor. And I said, okay. After a while, I got that. It was still uncomfortable for me, but I got that. Time went on and he started calling me Pop. And I said, now I know you've lost your mind. I said, because First of all, considering our age, I said, I'm not old enough to be your father. And I am not nobody's. I'm no one's spiritual parent. None of these things. He said to me, he said, God showed me who you were. He said, who develops me, who nurtures me, who takes part in my grooming, and everybody I tried to latch on to, the Lord let me know that they weren't it. That's not your spiritual parent. That's not your spiritual parent. And as I went in and I began to pray, the Lord did deal with me about parenting Prophet Hickson. And I did not want to accept being anybody's spiritual parent. But after a while, I knew that he was my son. After I got out of my own idea, out of my own mindset, and I came out of my flesh, I knew, because I knew that connection. Sometimes the Lord will put people in your path and you don't know who they are in the beginning. There are times where something happened instantly. I would love to say that everybody has that Mary and Elizabeth moment where something leaps inside of you and all of that. And it's this deep thing and everybody go up in tongues and and we speak in all these languages. And this is how I know you're my son, you're my daughter. It doesn't always happen that way. Some cases you find out in a very normal conversation, a typical conversation. It could be lunch, dinner. Before I really identified as Dr. Carrion's spiritual father, there was times where we would go out, her husband, different ones, and they would just glean wisdom from me. They would just talk and we would just communicate. And that's cool. As somebody's apostle, that's great. But the depth of our relationship as time went on was revealed as time went on, that this was more than just we went out here and there. And so it doesn't have to be a church service. We didn't have to fall out rolling the floor, but God will put that connection in your spirit and you're going to know. And sometimes in your knower, when you first meet somebody, you know it in some cases, but just don't think, nah, I can't be their spiritual parent. No, that can't be my father. No, but God will always put that thing in your spirit. So there are many different ways to look at it. But I want to say you can't necessarily pick your spiritual parent, but going out and trying to scout out to find a spiritual parent, I will say this, that if you're bold enough to do that and to endure the process that comes with, because in trying to scout out and find a spiritual parent, you will probably, unless the Lord has blessed you to find them in one shot, you will probably find yourself in many moments of disappointment, heartache, pain, some of everything, because you're trying to find them yourself. When God wants two individuals connected, he knows how to put them in the same place at the same time for the right connection. And while we're on this, and I'll give it back over to Dr. Carrion, a lot of times people embrace spiritual parents temporarily. I don't know what that is. They must have just been a teacher to you, but you can't figure, oh, this person is better in this area and I want this person and I want that person. Now all of a sudden we hear in our spirit that my season is up, my time is up, let me disconnect from my mother or my father. Then we have to ask ourselves a question: were they really that to us? Were they really our mother, father in the spirit? Because you don't get to pick and choose, pick them up, put them down when you feel like it. Same thing with sons and daughters. There's some that have made me want to throw them in the garbage. I'm being honest. I'm glad I can't see the comments, because somebody might say, wow, did he really just say that? There were some of my sons and daughters I wanted to throw in the garbage. And people even ask, why do you even bother? Because I don't believe in temporary situations. Now, when God shifts a thing, that's something different. But I still don't believe in that, having 50 different spiritual parents. There's some people you embrace, and then there are others that God picked. And I don't remember seeing in the word how many people disconnected from who was assigned. Elisha, or Elisha as some call him, followed Elijah all the way till he went up. And that's how he was mantled. That's how he got the double portion. He did not say, well, he taking too long. Let me go on across here and let me locate Jeremiah over here, because this one, ain't no telling when he going up. I can't get what I want from him. I'm going to go with Ezekiel in them. Like you can't, just because things don't go the way you want it to go, you are not allowed to throw your parent away, just like your parent is not allowed to throw you away. I have to question, was it a real relationship to begin with? Was it really God ordained?
Woo!
God picks them. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I talked.
No, that's okay. Y'all, I told y'all he be good, y'all. I'm telling you. I told y'all the comments are going crazy. I told y'all he be good. See, and the thing is, y'all, this conversation we having like this is how we talk on the phone. So it literally, and I don't talk to him on the phone all the time. I may talk to him on the phone once every 3 to 4 weeks, because that's another thing too. People be thinking we talk all the time, and it's really not like that. I don't have to talk to him all the time. I like when he gives an instruction to me, I'm not coming back until I follow through on the instruction, because I don't want to waste his time. So that's just me. So I don't want to waste his time. I don't want to wear him out. If he gives me an instruction, if I talk to him about something, I'm not coming back until I'm finished, because I don't want to weigh him down with all of the things that I already know he's responsible for as an apostle. But I wanted to tell y'all, one of the things that I love talking to my spiritual father is because anytime I talk to him, and like he said, we don't have to be at church. We don't have to be in a church setting. When I walk away from the conversation, my spirit is leaping. And it's something simple. It could be a simple, and anybody who really knows him knows he's a comedian. He's like Kevin Hart, second to none. So he's not so deep and wonderful. That's not even his personality, but he can say something. And because I have my own relationship with God, and because God deals with me, when he says something, it's like my spirit. And there's sometimes that I'll talk to him and like I'm up all night just meditating on what he said to me and how I'm supposed to implement that and how it's supposed to move and affect me. And I've seen the manifestation in my own life. And so that's why I want to encourage you guys who are in the comments. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, I get so much from this relationship that I honor it, because you guys know I'm in my 40s. I said he's been my spiritual father for a little over 10 years. So when you think about it, I went for 30 plus years without having true direction in my spiritual walk. I'm not saying in my natural walk, by the time we met, I already had a master's degree. I was working, I was successful and all those things, but I wasn't where God wanted me to be. And if you get to a place where you have all of this riches and all this fame and all this natural stuff, but you really truly want God, then this is the time for you to get in position so God can really connect you to who your spiritual parent is. Because I believe a lot of people, even in this pandemic, they're lost because they haven't positioned themselves to meet their spiritual parent. And so if you wanted to elaborate on that.
Yes, you felt me. I want to elaborate on it because sometimes God put your spiritual parent in front of you, but your pride won't let you embrace them. Pride won't let you embrace them. Maybe rejection won't let you embrace them. There are a number of reasons why you won't embrace a spiritual parent. In some cases, it's you have daddy issues. And you have a problem with men, and then and vice versa. Some have mommy issues, and you got a problem with women in authority. So instead of embracing the relationship, you're good with a father, but you kick and buck up against a mother. And because that mother is maybe the disciplinary, and so you have an issue with receiving from them. And so there are many different things that happen in people's lives. Some have a resentment against men, and so they don't want a spiritual father. And you're praying, God, who is my parent? Who is my parent? Who is my parent? And the reality is sometimes he puts them right in front of you and you don't see them. And so while you're looking, and what's so funny is Dr. Carey and I shared this when we did our discussion on mentorship, that the reality is we established, I think, now she correct me, I'm not old, but my mind sometime, I believe we had already established that I'm her spiritual father, but she wanted a mentor in certain areas. The Bible says that you'll have many teachers, but few fathers. There are many teachers, but few fathers. And so it's okay to have a spiritual parent, but also have mentors. But just don't confuse the two, because it's so easy to get so close to a mentor that you're embracing them as a father or a mother, and you already messed up the relationship because you're putting a demand on them that God never put. And even if they come into agreement, yeah, I'll be your mother, yeah, I'll be your father, and the reality is God never put them there. And then you start, this is what happens. You bump heads, you clash, all kinds of things happen, and we want to blame something, or we want to blame the devil. No, they were never your spiritual parent. But that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But we shared during the time of mentorship, where we were talking about mentorship, she was doing all this searching. And she would bring me a name, and I'll say, are you sure about that? And she'll go back, must not be them. So she'll pray and she'll bring another name. And I said, oh, okay. And so his response, no. And then finally she came back and said, the Lord told me that what I was looking for was right in front of me the whole time. And God said that you were that. And I said, wow. I said, so we got it, huh? We move forward from that point, but it's always that way. It's also not always, but it's also that way sometimes with spiritual parenting. A lot of times something in you says, well, I can't. I have siblings that had to embrace me as their spiritual father. And sometimes it's difficult for a sibling to do that because you grew up as their brother. Not necessarily in my case, because I helped raise my sisters, so I really didn't have that much of a problem. But there are people who, your spiritual parent may be, someone that I just don't see them as such. You don't have to see them as such. But what did the Spirit of God say concerning them? And that's how you know who your parent is. Don't keep looking, and that's why we're hitting shipwreck. My mother the other week identified me as her spiritual father while she was up preaching. She said, that's my son, but he was the one who fathered me and is fathering me in the things of the Spirit. And we're not going to go into all that because somebody might have something to say about that. I don't really care. But, but sometimes it's right in front of you, and pride or rejection or so forth and so on will keep you from embracing it.
Y'all, I'm telling y'all, I told y'all I was going to be good. I'm just really excited. The comments are still going. People saying, wow. This, I'm telling you, is so true. And what he talked about in the beginning of the statement about rejecting a spiritual parent because of whatever issues you may have with a natural parent. I had those issues with dealing with a spiritual mother, with trying to deal with that I had to, my spiritual mother is Apostle Dr. Yvette Hawkins. I literally had to stand in front of the church and apologize, not because she told me to, but the Spirit of God told me to, because I had to come to the realization that I had an issue with women. And anybody who was at my church that day, they know I'm not telling y'all nothing that I stood in front of the church because the Lord rebuked me once I got to a place in God. See, the key is you're looking for a spiritual parent, but you still got to be on a path to being spiritual. You can't just wake up tomorrow and say, I want a spiritual parent, but you haven't done anything. to warrant that. And so in my prayer time and in the Lord dealing with me and cutting me and purging me, he talked to me about my need to submit. And what's funny is the minute I submitted, the minute I said it publicly, because the thing is too, a lot of us will say things privately and don't mean it, or all of a sudden we think that people forgot about things. She never said anything to me, but the Lord told me I needed to publicly apologize. And when I publicly apologized, honestly, the floodgates in my life opened. Anybody who knows, the floodgates open, the Lord just started blessing me here, blessing me there. Immediately, I started to see the similarities in myself and my spiritual mother that the enemy didn't want me to see. He wanted me to still have an issue with women. He still wanted me to have an issue with, and again, I've been through things with women or whatever, but as my apostle teaches us, usually where your greatest warfare is, that's your assignment. And so I know my assignment is women, but I also know that was my issue. And she never did anything to me, but I had an issue. So my spirit was always bucking up against hers, if you want to use that term, because I had an issue with female authority. And so I say that to say as well, you need to search your own heart, because you may be seeking something, but as he said, you have to be in a place where you won't reject what God has sent you. And again, I have been under the ministry at this point probably about 5 years. So I'm sitting under a pastor for 5 years, and my spirit is bucking. And me not accepting the fact that this person was there to assist me with where God wanted to take me because of my own insecurities and my own issues with women. And so I'm glad he said that, because a lot of times, especially on these platforms, people always want to talk about what's wrong with the spiritual person. You're the pastor or you're the leader, and so you should know and you should do this. A lot of times as sheep and as people who need the parenting, we just don't do right. We just don't handle people properly. We treat them how we want to treat them. We say what we want to say, or we don't say anything. You walk past them and don't talk to them. You act like they don't exist. And then when all hell breaks loose in your life, you want them to get on their knees and pray. And the sad part is they do. They will get on their knees and pray. They will intercede for you and your family. And you know we're a complete utter mess. And then the next week, we won't even speak to them. But that's another story for another day, y'all. We'll get to this next question. So how do I know if my relationship with my spiritual parent is working? So how do you know?
How y'all hit me with the questions tonight. How do I know if my relationship with my spiritual parent is working? Well, it brings forth fruit. You're going to see the fruit of that relationship. Dr. Carrion just said it. And you know, some people think that, oh, your spiritual parents got to be a husband and wife team. That's not always the case. And of course, as you hear in Dr. Carrion's explanation of who her parents are, this is a spiritual thing. It has nothing to do with the natural makeup. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that. You know, well, my spiritual father is so and so, so his wife got to be my spiritual mother. And this one, you have to know who's who. And God sends people to nurture certain parts of you. And if that spouse does not hit the spot there, we don't have to necessarily go that route, because they don't nurture that part of you. Whoever it is that nurtures that part of you, that and God has spoken, that's who you embrace as a father, as a mother, and so forth and so on. But I wanted to say it brings forth fruit. You heard Dr. Carrion say that in our connection, some things have occurred. She experienced growth. She experienced some wisdom, some instruction. There are things that she said that I've mentioned, and she would ponder on it all night, meditate on it, and it helped in her development in certain areas, just to prepare her for things that God wanted her to do. And so it brings forth fruit. If you want to know if that relationship is working, see how much that connection is benefiting you and how much that connection is benefiting them. Because what we don't want to hear most of the time is that those relationships are reciprocal. You should be able to stand and say that I've been blessed being so and so spiritual parent, and they should be able to say that they've been blessed being your son or your daughter. It should bring forth fruit. It should bring forth growth. It should bring forth development. Things should it should enrich you. You're enlightened on some things that you probably were in the dark about before. They tend to make you look at something that you probably wouldn't have paid attention to before, about you, about where you're going, where you're headed, what you're doing, any of those areas. And so the bottom line of it is, the simple way to answer it is, whenever it's bringing forth fruit, if it's fruitful, that's how you know that it's working, and it's growing, and it's healthy. But whenever we just sitting looking at each other, blah, we at it again, blah. And in some cases, we count fruit as the things that we like. But of course, preparing for your destiny, she hit on it as well. You have to be able to deal with the pruning and the lashes sometime, and the correction, and you have to be willing to also take the bitter with the sweet, because it's not going to always feel good, but at the end of the day, it makes you a better individual. And so that's how you know when it's working, when it's fruitful, and both parties. You add strength to me, I add strength to you. You add life to me, I add life to you. You add abundance to me, I add abundance to you.
Woo! God, that was good, Apostle. I'm going to go right into this one because you on fire. Is my pastor automatically my spiritual parent?
No. In a lot I was guilty of believing that years ago. But your pastor is not necessarily your spiritual parent. There are some people who come on board, and honestly, I have a good amount of sons and daughters, but then there are some that we don't identify as me being their father and them being my son or my daughter, because that's not the type of relationship that we have. But also, I want to say this: when you identify that your pastor is not your spiritual parent, please don't put that type of responsibility on them. It is unfair. They are to feed the flock. They are to lead you. They're there to give you instruction, but they may not be the one to get in the trenches with you. Some of them can't get in the trenches with you. Some of them can't get that up close and personal time with you, because then that's not what their assignment is. As long as you are being led, as long as you are being fed, and as long as that pastor is keeping that requirement, don't put unrealistic responsibility on them, and you're not even ready to embrace them to be that.
Whoo, child. So y'all heard him, because this was a question that I got from people personally. Your pastor is not automatically your spiritual parent. I just wanted to repeat that for the people in the back, so you'll know this. What I will say, and he said it already, is, because you know that this is the case. I know this is a tricky situation for you guys who are like me, who always are seeking for answers and things of that nature. I would just say, and he'll say the same thing, pray that whoever the Lord aligns you with to be your spiritual parent, pray for peace. That's all I can say, is pray for peace. Because let's be honest, there are a lot of pastors who have a different philosophy, that feel like they're the spiritual parent to the whole entire mega church. So you got 5,000 members and you everybody's spiritual parent. I don't know how, because I don't know how you could get in the trenches with 5,000 people. Let me explain what the trenches are in my situations. Like, I literally, in my place of work, I was going through so much warfare. Like, literally, Jezebel was sitting at my desk every day when I came in. He would talk to me on the phone. He would pray with me in my office. I anointed my office. I would walk around the place praying. Again, this is not something I heard on the Sunday preacher where he preached it on Sunday and then I went and did it Monday. No, he was literally holding my hand through the warfare. Why? Because he understood that I needed to get to a place, but he also understood that I didn't know how to get there. Like, so literally he was in the trenches with me. There are a lot of things that I've dealt with. I've dealt with things with raising my children. I've dealt with things in my marriage. I've dealt with things on the job. I've dealt with things in my family, personally, unit. Y'all know I've even gone to therapy. So there are things that I've dealt with that he has been able to get in the trenches with me to give me godly wisdom and godly instruction, even if I didn't like it. Godly wisdom and godly instruction. And I think that's one of the things that is lacking in a lot of people who are saying they're spiritual parents, because you need godly wisdom to be able to truly spiritually parent someone. Because again, based on your assignment as a person, the person who's your spiritual parent, 9 times out of 10, they already know your assignment. They already know what's going to come up against you because they've either experienced it or they have godly wisdom to get you through it. And so, like, for instance, I'll use an example. I've gone to many churches in my life. I sit under an apostle. I sat under the pastor. I sat under a bishop. I sat under different denominations. However, the minute the Lord introduced me to the prophetic, I was like, okay, this is different. All right, and at the church I was going to at that time, the prophetic wasn't in operation. However, the Lord introduced me to the prophetic because he knew he had an assignment and a call for me. Once he introduced me to the prophetic, I started experiencing warfare. I never knew what warfare was. I'm going to be honest. They don't teach warfare in church. Let's be for real. They don't teach you how to fight the enemy. They just tell you to rebuke him, but they don't give you strategy on Sundays in the pulpit on how to deal with the enemy on Monday. They just don't. And so I needed somebody to give me strategy to help me get through. And so I say that to say a lot of us, and I say us because, of course, you guys know we're a community. We all in this together. But a lot of us are connecting to people who have a name, who are famous or social media famous because they have all these followers, but they don't have any power to get you out of, because, again, we're talking spiritual things. We're not talking just naturally. We're talking spiritual things, but they have no power to get you out. So why have a spiritual parent and they in the same bucket as you? Like, why? I don't understand that. Oh my God. Sorry, guys. I forgot y'all comments. I mean, y'all going in these comments. Thank you so much. Oh, this is excellent wisdom and clarity. Okay, so the people are going in the inbox. I mean, the thing, Apostle. They going in. So, somebody said what? Warfare is not taught. It's not taught. Again, if there are churches that, where I go now, let me say that. Where I attend now, warfare is taught. We're taught how to intercede. We're taught how to pray. We taught how to do all of that. Even the kids. The kids are taught scripture. We're taught how to pray. They're taught Bible. All of that where I go now. But I'm saying universally, and the people I've encountered, a lot of people, when I mention warfare or I mention different spirits, they're like, what are you talking about? But everybody says they're Bible-based churches, but these spirits are in the Bible.
Truth.
So it's like we talk about the good things. We talk about the houses, the cars, the abundance, and all this other stuff, but we're not talking about that the devil gonna be on your trail and try to kill you and your family before you get there. And not equipping people on how to be able to live a fulfilling life and not be afraid of the devil. Because that's another thing too. People are living in fear because they don't have an understanding. And unfortunately, there are spiritual people who are spiritual parents out there who don't know how to fight. So you got a good shout. You can give me a good word of wisdom, but you don't know how to fight in the spirit. So I just wanted to say that if you had anything to add to that, because that's one thing I have noticed is that people, like, is that a prerequisite? Like, as a spiritual parent, you should know how to fighting the spirit. I just don't understand. I don't know if that's a prerequisite. I'm like really asking.
I believe that as a spiritual parent, you're supposed to be able to equip, yes, your sons and daughters, how to fight in the spirit, how to become more developed in prayer. Because what we are not taking away from this and really looking at is that we're not just saying parent, we are saying spiritual parent. So everything that pertains to the spirit, that person is to parent you in. The spirit world comes with more than just the glory cloud and the power of God when as it relates to all having an awesome service and we were all up in the glory and I'm telling you, I was overtaken in but we don't teach you how to pray. You cannot be spiritual without a relationship. You cannot be spiritual if you never talk to God. You cannot be spiritual if there is no type of connection to the spirit realm. And so to have a spiritual parent, one of the things that should be taught is how to be spiritual. Spiritual. This is the key word, spiritual. And so there is a fight sometime in the because some people don't even believe that you go through warfare. You will be surprised that some don't believe in spiritual warfare, just like they don't believe in prophets, just like some a few moments ago didn't agree that your pastor is not automatically your spiritual parent. Everybody has their view, but if your parent, let me say, that's what I want to say too, if your pastor is automatically your spiritual parent, what happens when you go to 10 different churches? Do you switch parent every time you go to a church? You're going to look confused. I resign from here, so now you are not my mother. I'm going here. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. And so what it appears is that we are running a spiritual adoption agency, and people really have no, that's a whole nother thing. But that job of that parent is to teach you how to be spiritual. How do I overcome the war, not just with the devil, but the war with me, the war with the things I want to do, the war with the things I don't want to give up, the war with the things that I'm just struggling with to change. There are so many different wars that we have to fight, and it ain't always going to be in the form of Jezebel and Korah and Leviathan. And, this person should have been able to say that they have conquered some things. You can't, how you going to get me there when you can't? It's almost like the blind leading the blind. How you going to get me there and you never had to overcome the war with yourself? You never had to become more disciplined. You never had to, so if it's my job to parent you to become a full-grown adult in the spirit, then I have to be able to teach you how to defend yourself. Just like a mother and a father. Some people got parents that don't really know how to fight, like throw the hands. Some of us from the hood. So something go on, we get our stance, we knuckle up because we were taught how to do all of that. However, there's some people that don't have skill like that, but your parent will tell you, if this happened, that happened, and they equipped you with tools. Even if they ain't never have to knuckle up, they equip you with tools. If this happened, put your keys in the middle of your, come on, I wish I had somebody watching from the hood where your mom and daddy told you, put your key, everything you got in your hand becomes a weapon. Get crazy if you got to get crazy. I might not be able to get right, the windmill. I might not be able to tell you how to get your stance and how to box and how to, how you supposed to grip your fists and, because you're really not supposed to have a fist with your thumbs like this. You got to grip, the impact, you don't come with a tight fist forward. That I'm not teaching boxing. You actually supposed to be loose like this, and the more impact when you get closer to your target and you tighten up. But you don't come and you tight from the beginning, it slows you down. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so everybody don't have the same skill set. But when a parent is concerned, they're gonna tell you, you gotta have endurance. If this goes wrong, call this one. If that goes, they begin to equip you. That's in the natural, I'm talking. But in the spirit, if they don't teach you how to use the word of God as your defense, then we can't windmill this out. We can't windmill this out. I use the natural example to say that it's an instinct of a parent to teach you to defend, even if they don't have the skill. But in the spirit, that instinct should be even more intensified, where they can tell you, get in that word, understand the word, know how to apply the word. You can't come at the devil in your flesh. You got to know how to come in and say, but the weapons of my warfare, they are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold. Tell them to apply that word. How do you apply that word? What do you say when the enemy come? You know, just like Jesus had to say, it is written that man shall not live, because the enemy was trying to tempt him to eat before time, to do this and to do that. And he had to come and say, it is written. That spiritual parent has to know how to teach you how to apply the word to the prayer, apply the word to your life, apply the word to the circumstance. Go into prayer and know how to move and operate in the spirit. Know how to hit that vein. When you get in that vein, you go. You don't stop. When you get in that vein, stay in the vein and begin to do war in the spirit. Begin to pray in the spirit. And God, the Holy Ghost, will let you know when it's time to let up. The Holy Ghost will let you know when it's time and when that thing has been broken. Come on, somebody. And so you need a spiritual parent that should be able to equip you, to teach you about the flow of God, the things of God, the movement of the Spirit of God. Other than that, when you put the Spirit in front of people and it looks like, what am I looking at? Then that means that you're not properly being taught. Amen. So that's all I'm gonna say on that.
Y'all, that's why he's the general. This is why he the general, y'all.
That could be a live all by itself.
This is why he the general, y'all. I telling you. Whew, listen. Oh my God. They like, let yourself loose, apostle. Y'all, and this is him all the time. All the time. Everybody like teach this parent.
Who wants a spiritual parent that'll let you whine and cry all the time and never tell you to man up or stand as a woman of God, or never tell you that this is not the way you're going to win. You can't just cry your way through it. You can't just weep your way through it. You can't just complain your way through it. And I don't know why this is always happening to me. Why they get in the spirit. Stop accepting what the devil is throwing at you and know how to stand on your own too in the spirit and say, I'm going to live and not die, and I'm going to declare the works of the Lord. You have to have somebody that equips you in that area. I don't like whiny babies. If I never teach you how to, what some of us say when your children are whining, stop all that whining, especially when you got a father. A father don't like for their sons to keep whining and crying. Every now and again, you need somebody to tell you, stop all of that whining and pray. Stop all of that whining, get in the spirit. The reason why you're losing is you don't have enough word in your spirit. Get in the spirit. Get in that Bible. Hello, somebody. Stop all of that. You ain't going to win by getting on the phone talking there are times where your greatest weapon is when you get silent. I'm not going to even let the devil know where I live. I'm going to get silent. Everything is not to be said, but you need someone of wisdom and that is spiritual to tell you these things. Sometimes you can't even call your best friend and the Holy Ghost said, be quiet. I'm moving, but I don't need you to mess it up with your words. I don't need you to speak. I don't need you to do this. I don't need you to do that. You need a parent that can teach you how it is to be spiritual. But I'm going to stop now. Take it back.
So these comments going off. Well, y'all already know, like I told y'all at the beginning of this live, because we about to wrap it up. He is my spiritual father. But for those of you who are interested, because I know people in these comments talk about, listen, I'm his executive assistant. You got to go through me to get an appointment. And maybe I'm going to pray to see if you right. Because, you know, we going to make sure you right. But oh my God, see now y'all see, I get this all the time. That's why y'all be wondering how I jump on here and I just be on fire for God, because I have to go. This is what I get. So when you get something like this, you be like, oh, I could do anything. Let me get up in here. Let me pray. Let me seek the face of God. Let me make these moves. Let me get in my mode. Let me do what I got to do. And I tell you guys all the time, I don't get up here and talk about nothing if the Lord doesn't tell me to talk about it. So I knew when this kept coming, the Lord wanted me to deal with this, because there are people who are lost and they want spiritual parenting. They just don't know what it looks like. And I told y'all, again, he's mine. There's a couple of others I share him with, but he's mine. But again, at the end of the day, y'all see what I get. And I just want to say he is absolutely right. I can only talk about my own journey. About 3-4 years ago, every single year, the enemy would attack my body. Every single year. And I mean, I would go up to the altar, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would pray. I would call a bunch of people, tell them what's going on. Oh, I need you to pray. I need you to pray. And back in 2019, when it hit me again, I said, oh no, this devil is a liar. I'm not dealing with this no more. And I started praying to the point where by the time things will come up, it'll be like, oh, it's going. Oh, it's going. Oh, it's going. And Apostle is a witness. I'll be like, this is what they told me, but this is what God says. I'll come back. It's gone. It's gone. There's no trace. And so now, in 2020, while everybody going through the pandemic, and of course we're not disheartened at that, that's the first time in over 3 or 4 years that I got a clean bill of health from everybody.
My God.
From everybody, a clean bill of health. And again, these health issues that were coming up weren't even real. They were the enemy. But when I made a decision that, you know what, I'm not going to be no punk no more. I'm going to do what my leader taught me, which is pray and seek the face of God and give God back his word. Things just started disappearing. And I'm not talking about little things. I'm talking about fibroids, ulcers. And again, these are things I've testified already. So Apostle could tell you, I'm not lying. Fibroids, thyroids, all these other things that were going on, low levels of iron and vitamin D and all of these other things that were going on, my eyes, a bunch of things that the enemy was attacking my body on. And I didn't make no Facebook posts, because the Lord said, no, you need to deal with this way. So now when people come to me and say, this is what's going on in my health, I'm like, no, let's pray. No, you ain't got to call all people like, oh, you was going through that? No, that's what they told me, but that's not what I was going through. Because a lot of times too, we attach ourselves to the things that the enemy says, and then we wonder why it's so hard to get out. I was like, oh no, that's what you said? Oh, okay, no problem. And just the other week, I went to go check something out at the doctor because my husband wanted me to go. And it just so happens before I went into the doctor's office, Apostle called me. And I said, well, since you're on the phone, because again, I'm not calling him to tell him to pray no more, because I already know what it is. Again, I'm not saying don't call your leader to pray. I'm just telling you what the Lord has done for me. I said, well, since you called, let me tell you where I'm at. Yeah, I'm at the doctor's office, blah, 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 blah. I already know it's the enemy, but I'm coming because my husband asked me to come just to check it out. I get out the doctor's office. Oh, what they say? They didn't find nothing. They didn't find anything. And it happens all the time. But I say that to say, now the enemy knows he can't get me that way. Because a lot of times we're going through these cycles because the enemy going to keep coming the same way, because he feels like as long as I get her distracted, as long as she get buried down, as long as she got to call and seek out these people. No, I didn't go through all this for nothing. So when he talks about that, giving that word back and decreeing and declaring and rebuking, I'm telling you, I'm a living witness.
Jesus.
I'm a living witness because I live this thing. I'm not talking to y'all about stuff every week that I haven't lived through. Like I said, just the other week, I'm in the doctor trying to see if I have a blood clot. I'm in the doctor's office and I said to my apostle, I already know what this is, because again, the enemy comes the same way all the time. So the way it comes up, I'll be like, all right, this is him. And I'm going to be honest, y'all. And again, she not on here. I'm going to get her up here one week, though. She don't know yet. I know she in these comments. But that apostle, Dr. Yvette Hawkins, y'all, the prayer general herself, I am telling you, I'm going to get her up here one week. I ain't even going to spoil it for y'all. I'm going to get her up here one week because she will train you on how if nobody ain't got the gift of healing, ain't going to teach you how to pray yourself to healing, it is that Apostle Dr. Yvette Hawkins. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm so glad I'm helping you, Mo, because I'm telling you, we are in 2021 and we got to stop playing these games like we're just, oh, woe is me, and we're having pity parties and not doing what God has called and assigned us to do because we're so distracted of what's happening in our bodies, what's happening in our households and all these things. And the truth be told is the enemy is constantly doing this to us and we're taking it lying down. And so I say, if you don't know how to do what we're talking about, pray and ask the Lord to connect you with people, whether it's a spiritual parent, whether it be, honestly, truth be told, a lot of us don't see our friends as spiritual. That's another story for another day. But I pray every week with a group of women that I never thought that I would pray with. And the Lord has been doing miraculous things. Some of them are in here now. The Lord is doing miraculous things. I have not laid hands on nobody. I pray the way I was taught to pray. I give the word as I was taught to give the word, and the Lord does the rest. That's it. The problem is we got to connect with the right people in this season. Because even if you can't find a spiritual parent, your circle should be strong enough for you to get a prayer through.
Connect
You got to connect.
Sometimes it ain't here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the connection is here. But be around spiritual people, that's key.
Yep. That is key. And I'm telling y'all, the Lord has been doing, and again, maybe one day the Lord will allow me to open it up to the masses. Right now, it's about 10 of us, and the Lord has been moving in bodies. He's been moving in finances. He's been moving in families. And of course, there is another expansion coming. I don't know what the Lord is doing, but I'm willing for him to do whatever he needs to do through me to get people to where they need to be. Because at the end of the day, somebody did it for me. And so it is my driving force. I come up here every week, not because I want to be famous and all that other stuff, because it's not about that. Truth be told, I am very introverted for the people who really know me. I like being by myself. And exactly. And I didn't want to come up here until the prayer general herself, Apostle Dr. Yvette Hawkins, told me the Lord said, open my mouth and get up here. Otherwise, y'all wouldn't even be talking to me. So I say that to say, think of it this way. One instruction. My spiritual mother gave me one word. The Lord said, open your mouth and get up there. And look, y'all see me every week. I was obedient even when I didn't want to be. But she saw something that God showed her about me. For me to help you and bring things to you that you wouldn't necessarily have access to. That's what a spiritual parent does. And so is there anything else, Apostle, you would like to say before we sign off? You got the last word. I mean, you blew our minds today. Thank you so much, Apostle Styles. Woo.
Oh, my friend is on there.
Yes, Apostle is here.
God bless you all, those of you that are watching. I love Apostle Styles. I love all of you. I don't even know who's on there, but trust that I love you because I love people. You said something key that even the right connection will grant you access. The right connection will give you access to some things. And so I'm grateful for this time to share. And you also said that while all of this stuff is going on, it's not time to play games. It's time to really be about the Father's business. We should have been doing it. This should have been something that has been on our heart as long as we've been saved. Reality is we all grow, and we're growing in the grace, and we're growing in the knowledge of God. And we must take our walk with God seriously. And that means whoever you want me to connect to, I'll connect to. Whatever it is that you want me to do. A lot of times, some things you don't even have to ask God for specifically. All you have to do is ask the Lord to help you be to be centered in His will. And when that is your prayer, then God starts letting everything else fall in line, and he'll connect you to the right spiritual mother, spiritual father. He'll connect you to the right friends and siblings in the spirit, and so forth and so on, because you're seeking for your life to be centered and for you to be in proper alignment with God. And overall, above what your spiritual mother or your spiritual father may know about you and see for you, God knows above all of us what you need. He knows what connections you need to have. He knows what you should be doing. And so as long as you're seeking out the will of God for your life, he will connect you to the right people at the right time for your destiny. And so, again, I enjoyed this conversation. I'm trying to maintain, and so I don't want to say too much, because that last piece right there, that little ending, got me stirred a little bit. But I want you guys to be strengthened. Make sure that you keep your eyes open, because the imitation is going to come. The imitation a lot of times comes before the real thing. And so just because somebody looks like what you want and who you want, don't be so fast to gravitate and to grab a hold of it. Make sure that whatever you're doing, that it is definitely a God connection. And when it is, he'll prosper your way. And so God bless you. Thank you for allowing me to join in, Daughter C. Love you much.
You guys, like I told you, I know you guys. He'll be back. When the Lord tells me to invite him back, not that he can come anytime he wants to, but I know the Lord gave him a specific assignment. And y'all know when he come, he brings the heat. As you can see, these comments go crazy. He brings the heat. He's of course, he's a prophet, he's a preacher, he's a teacher, he's all of those things. But the one thing I love about him is he wants to equip people to be who God created them to be. Somebody asked for a part 2. To be who God created them to be. And that is one of the things I absolutely love about him, that he is not selfish in what he shares. He gives it to us and then he pushes us out. And again, I am grateful to have a leader like that, because I know everyone doesn't have that. But I am grateful that he is. Sometimes you don't want to be pushed. You be like, I'm not ready to do that. He be like, no, you need to go. And so I say that to say, I am honored to be able to sit under his teaching and under his leadership. I am honored to be a spiritual daughter. I am honored to be a mentee, because like I told you guys, at the end of the day, I could be all these things in the natural, but it means nothing if my spiritual walk isn't where it needs to be. It means absolutely nothing. And as I told you guys, I don't know exactly. Well, no, the Lord has already spoken. I know where the Lord wants me to be and where he's taking me. And I also know that it's only because that I give you guys what God tells me to give you, and that he trusts me with that. And I don't take that for granted. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in weekly. Whew, I'm not even going to talk about nothing else. I'm just going to let y'all go, because this is what happens, though, because now he done stirred up, and now I'm going to be on fire for the next 5 or 6 hours. See, this is what happened when it's your spiritual parent, because then it's like this exchange thing happened, and then your spirit start leaping, and then I'm going to probably be up all night writing stuff. So y'all pray for me, because now I'm on fire. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week, same time, same streaming services or whatever, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love you all and have a good night. Take care. Bye.